That's what the PMC mentality is slowly turning into is, well, if I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. Or, hey, I need the money. I got 3 mortgages and I owe the IRS $700,000. There was a guy I was talking to that was making $700 a day to get on a school bus, a large school bus with migrant families and children, and drive from the border up to like Northern California or Oregon. And you sat on these buses for like 36 straight hours with these migrants, and then literally open up the bus door, hand off their paperwork to somebody that you've never met that's part of a nonprofit, and say, all right, kids, go have fun. The problem is I've been talking about it for 2 years. I finally got picked up by the New York Post, and still nobody wants to touch it, dude. Like nobody wants to touch this thing, and I can't figure out why. Everybody should be sitting here saying, you know what, whose side I'm on? I'm on the fucking kid side. It happened a lot under Biden. I think the new administration is sitting there saying, like, we don't really want to promote this. One, because it's still like in place today, and 2, because we don't want everybody to know that we're still missing literally like 100,000 kids. Let's go!
All right, what is up, guys? Welcome back to I Came With Fire podcast, where we try to be a bridge in the divide, have interesting conversations with fascinating people, and really just get down to the truth no matter what it is and where we find it. You'll notice that we're one short tonight. The boss man got caught up in a rolling blackout in California because even though it's the 5th largest economy in the world, somehow they still can't figure out how to keep the lights on. So anyway, he might jump on in the middle of the podcast if you guys see him show up. That's what's going on. But if not, good friend of the channel, back again to check out what's going on with him. And Morgan Lerette, I will let him introduce himself to you guys and tell him who you are and what do you do, man.
Oh my God. Everything I do is mediocre.
I said, what do you do, not how do you do?
No, I'm Morgan. I'm Morgan Lerette. I was in the Air Force. I was an Air Force Security Forces guy like Brandon. And then I realized that was the worst job in the military, specifically the Air Force, where you just sit there and stare at planes all day. So then I went and worked for Blackwater, which was pretty rad. It's like the best job ever. Wrote this book, Guns, Girls, and Greed, about it. And then after I got done with that, I wanted to fly helicopters really bad, so I joined the Army ROTC. And then they said, that's a 7.5-year contract to fly helicopters. And I said, I don't want to be in the Army that bad. So I became an intelligence officer after that, went back to Iraq 09 and 10. And then I went to Tufts University to get a graduate degree from a very snooty school. You know it's snooty because they just tried to deport some lady that was like one of the assistant teacher there. So it's right up there with Columbia. It's very snooty.
That's the new bar now for whether, like what the level of university that you have they tried to deport any of the faculty here?
Exactly.
No. All right, I got to go down the street, dude.
Yeah, I gotta get to another
I want to be
school.
Properly indoctrinated. I'm paying for this.
Exactly. So I mean, that's me. So I came out with this book, launched about a year and a half ago. It's about my time in Blackwater. It's like the ground perspective of life, liberty, and Lerette, which is pretty much like an E4, disgusting, dark humor. Look, if you ever spent any time in the military on the enlisted side, you'll love it. That's just all there is to it. So, and I know we're going to talk about some pretty nasty shit later. So I'm trying to get all the good stuff. I'm trying to get the good vibes going so that later when you guys are depressed after hearing about how fucked up the private military contractor gigs have become, that you could say, yeah, but he was kind of funny in the beginning.
Yeah. No, it's always fun to hang out with you. But yeah, we are going to get into some dark stuff tonight. So with that, I'm just going to let you guys know right up front. We'll do one of those disclaimer warnings. Actually, I'm legally required to do the disclaimer anyway. So anything that you hear here on this podcast, all of these opinions that you hear, they completely and totally belong to the host and the guest. They do not represent the United States Army, the Department of Defense, or any other entity within the United States government. You have been disclaimed, and then viewer discretion advised. I know that we got some people that like to watch this and hang out with their kids when they watch some of the podcasts. We're going to get into some dark stuff tonight that's going on in the private military contracting world. Subjects may not be suitable for all ages of viewers, so parents out there, discretion advised.
NC-17, it's like softcore porn. It's like Cinemax when you're younger and you're trying to watch and everything's all blurry, but you see a titty. It's going to be like that.
Yeah, Yeah, we might slip a nip. It could happen if you're lucky. You never know. But anyway, you said, take it back just a little bit. You said being in the Air Force, you said it was the worst job, being security forces. What about it made it the worst job in the Air Force?
Oh, bro, dude. So, look, I'm not a smart guy, but I scored pretty high on my ASVAB. You know, not like basic training high where everybody's like, "Oh, I scored a 98." And you're like, "Dude, you scored like a 34." like I scored pretty decent on my ASVAB, and my recruiter was like, "You can do anything. What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to be military police." And they're like, "We got security forces," and they pump you up that you're going to be a cop. They're like, "You're going to be out there. It's going to be like every episode of Cops. There's going to be people in wife beaters that are trying to stab you with old tongs and stuff." And then you go through
Bad
training.
Boys is just going to start playing randomly.
Dude,
in the ether,
yeah.
You know?
Dude, exactly. Like you hit the siren in your cop car, Bad Boy starts playing.
Right.
And then 90% of the job is just sitting there and staring at a flight line. It's like making sure people don't walk to a plane. And dude, you can get on the law enforcement side to a certain extent but it doesn't happen that often. So literally, dude, I read so many books. I wish I could say I actually read good books, but it was all Nora Roberts. It was like all romance stuff, so that I could sit there on the flight line and fucking choke my meat as hard as I could. You know, I mean that's how boring it was, dude. So, and plus, dude, security forces like they don't promote very often. Like, dude, if you're on the flight side, you're gonna get promoted pretty quick. Security forces, dude, those guys just stay there for forever, dude. So. And then they're jaded, and then I was jaded, and I was like, dude, this sucks. I gotta do something cooler.
Now I just have a video playing in my mind of you at like the on-base library walking up with just like a stack of just raunchy romance novels.
Dude, it was all who was the guy that was on all the covers of the romance novels with the long flowing hair? Like,
yeah, it was Fabio.
Yeah, Fabio.
You know, he's got dark hair instead of yeah.
I was like,
100%.
Man, that one looks good. Yeah. Oh, I would like a cowboy romance today where she gets bit by a rattlesnake in her genitalia and he's got to slurp out the venom.
Got to. Yeah.
So
what are you going to do? Let her die?
No, absolutely not.
Sorry, I had to.
Yeah. So, yeah, dude, I mean, it sucked. It was a fucking terrible job, but
Yeah, I see you're trying to like look for like one gem in the dirt, and you're like, no, it was just
dude. Like you either sit there and stare at planes, or you're the guy at the front base that's like, because you know back then all you had was the stickers, so you just be like, come on in. At post 9/11, you had to start checking IDs and stuff, but I called it the not a tank job, where they would drive up and you go, not a tank, not a tank, not a tank. Like, dude, it just like was soul sucking. But
it was back during the day where we were much more concerned about what was leaving the military post than what was actually coming in.
Yeah, and then 9/11 happened, and they gave us like those little mirrors that go underneath.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, Major, I get it. You think I want to walk around here with like a little makeup mirror and look underneath you? Ooh, pull up your hood. You think I like doing this shit? Come on, give a guy a break.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then you got out of the military, and if I remember correctly, it was a buddy of yours that kind of talked you into doing the PMC thing, right?
Yeah, so dude, this guy, former Force Recon Marine, a 5th Force out of Okinawa, and he's like, hey, you're a dumb redneck like I am. And I was in the National Guard. So he was in the National Guard with me when we got activated after September 11th. We deployed to Oman and then Jordan and Kuwait, then Iraq during the ground offensive. And we get home and he's like, dude, I'm going to go work for this Blackwater. And I was like, what? Dude, I don't even know what the hell that is. Nobody knew what Blackwater was. Like,
right.
And then 4 people get ambushed in Fallujah and get hanged off a bridge. And everybody knows what Blackwater is. And he's like, that's what I want to do. And I was like, you're psycho.
Get
like
hung off a bridge?
Yeah, like, dude, of all the things you know about Blackwater, you literally know they got ambushed, burned to death, and hung off a bridge.
Yeah.
So he went and started working for Blackwater and was like, dude, I'll put in a good word for you. And I was like, dude, I'm not super special operations, Navy SEAL, any of that other stuff. And he's like, no, I'll get you in. And dude, I didn't think anything of it until I got a phone call that was like, hey, Morgan, you want to go work for Blackwater? And I was like, who the hell are you? It's 5 a.m. So one of the guys in the job actually was like my recruiter. And he's like, hey, you want to work for Blackwater? And I was like, I'm not like a tier 1 or anything. I just make sure tanks don't come onto bases. And he's like, your buddy Mike already vouched for you. Let's go. So that's literally how I got into it. I just fell ass first into this thing, go and work for Blackwater, and dude, it was like the Wild West. All the stuff, if any of your listeners are paying attention, there's like the Gaza contract right now, and they're talking about what the contractors are doing and like the insanity of the whole thing. That was Blackwater '04, dude. It's like Eric Prince got into a DeLorean, went 88.8 miles per hour, and decided that he was going to come back to the future and create Gaza. Now, I mean, he's not part of it, but like no rules of engagement. Literally get this dude from point A to point B, come back and drink beer at the pool. That was like all we did. Well, we worked out a lot too. So yeah, dude, I kept telling these stories about like my time in Blackwater to just random people, and they'd be like, you should write a book. You should write a book. So I sat down, dude, I just got pissed one day. I was bored at work. This is before my current job. And I started writing out these stories, like Tucker Max style, right? Like I hope they serve beer in hell. It was just like straight up just story after story. And then I sent it off to a guy he's a friend of a friend, because when you go into the Army as an officer, officers help each other out. So my former officer friend hooked me up with a guy that wrote for like a TV show. He read it, was like, dude, you got to publish this. Like, it's spectacular. And I was like, oh, stop. Oh, like a little Japanese girl. Yeah. But yeah, so I started farming it out, and I got picked up by a publisher, and the rest is kind of history. So
nice. Well, I definitely did read your book. Can confirm it is highly entertaining. Also, not for children. So, but anybody out there that enjoys military stories, like you will be entertained for all. How many pages it is? Couple hundred pages.
Yeah, it's almost 300 pages of
300.
Of like, I mean, there's
debauchery.
There's a lot of naked dudes in there. Yeah. And if you're like me and you have a vivid imagination, all of them have six packs. I'm just saying.
So can you kind of walk people through, if you guys want Morgan's backstory and covering all that stuff, you can go back and check the other episodes that we've done with him. We talk with him at length about some of his cool stories that he's got from his time there in Blackwater, and go check that episode out. It's a lot of fun. But I think a good way to segue into kind of the main topic of tonight is, can you kind of describe, maybe from like the 30,000 foot view, what the purpose, and we can just stick with Blackwater as an example, I think would be the best way to do it. But can you describe from like the 30,000 foot view kind of what the purpose of a PMC like Blackwater is, and then kind of go into how that translated to what you guys were doing in like 0405?
Yeah, so dude, bringing in contractors is every company does it at some point, right? You go to Walmart, it's around Christmas, they bring in contractors because they don't have enough people to scan all the presents that are going through the line. So that's really what it is you're bringing in a group of individuals that can do a task that you need because it's high demand. So when we went into Iraq in 2004, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but George Bush is like, we are not occupiers. We are not there for your oil. Right.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
So, dude, the first thing that he did is try to give sovereignty back to the Iraqi government. When he did that, it moved from going to like a Department of Defense mission, like active combat. Remember, mission accomplished. Oh. It went from that to now it's a diplomatic mission, because Iraq is its own country. It has its own government. So the State Department had to take the lead, theoretical lead in Iraq, to help them build the country. So every Ba'ath Party member, everybody that was in Saddam Hussein's party, got booted out. But those are all the dudes that did everything for the government. Trash pickup, landing planes, selling minerals, dude, like you name it. Everybody in the government was a Ba'ath Party member. So the State Department had to bring in people to teach them how to do this. Everything from like, dude, the stock market, they were like writing in chalk and shit when I went in there. It was the craziest thing. But like we would have executives from like stock companies that would come in and help, or you had the FAA that would come in, and then you had the FBI, the CIA, the DIA, the NSA, all those dudes. So they didn't have anybody to protect those guys, so they brought in dudes like me that had military experience. I was in Iraq during the ground offensive, but I wouldn't say combat experience. Like, you've been trained, you know how to shoot, move, and communicate. Let's get these guys on ground to protect this really important diplomat or this really important FBI guy. So like the guys that I protected initially were in the Regime Crimes Liaison Office. They collected all the evidence for Saddam Hussein's trials, Kim Ali's trials. Like we could go to a mass grave site, and within 2 days we would see it on CNN. Like what happened. So like it was an important mission. Now the problem is, when you bring in a checker to Walmart, they don't give a shit if they miss something. If they miss a pack of batteries and they toss it in like with the rest of the stuff. And that's the same thing with us. We didn't give a shit about the mission. We weren't there because we were all patriotic. Now some people say they were, they're liars. We were all there for the money, $550 a day. So what happened is that you had the State Department and us contractors and the DOD, and nary the two shall meet. We didn't coordinate. We didn't do anything with each other except when we accidentally ran up on each other on the road. So that's really what Blackwater was. Protect diplomats in Iraq and Afghanistan, get them from point A to point B.
Simple enough.
Yeah,
right?
That's 30,000 feet.
Nice. How did that, or how has that kind of expanded or evolved over the years? Like from what you guys were doing in 2004, has it changed? And if so, like how has that evolved to what it looks like now?
So again, not the smartest guy. I thought this whole thing was going to die after Afghanistan and Iraq were done, because there was no reason that over the course of 20 years that the State Department or any other government agency couldn't hire and train people to do my job. I was wrong. And the reason why I was wrong is because it's really convenient to bring in contractors as opposed to paying and training people to do this job. There's a reason. There's a couple reasons. One, you don't have to spend as much money on me, right? I'm already trained. I've been watching planes for like the better part of 6 years. I'm fucking good at it, bro. Like, put me in, coach. Second, as a politician, when something bad happens with a contractor, you can fire them. They're gone. And if they do something bad, you then have the ability to say, oh, that wasn't us. That wasn't the State Department. That was those bad Blackwater guys. And this happened in 2007 with Nisser Square. The Blackwater guys ended up opening fire. I know they got attacked, but they ended up opening fire. And then when everything like settled, they said, oh, that was those terrible Blackwater guys. We got to kick Blackwater out of Iraq. Fun fact about that, they gave the contracted triple canopy, walked right into the Blackwater compound and said, you guys are all triple canopy employees now. So yeah, the best laid plans.
Put a new patch on.
Right, yeah, pretty much. So what it allows politicians to do, policymakers, is to distance themselves from the policies that they have created. And I thought it was going to die down. It's bigger than it ever was, because now private military contractors are in the drone space. They're in intelligence. There was one of those crazy Congress ladies that tried to get into one of the places Doge was in, and there was like a guy that was like stopping her, and he's got a Constellus hat on. Constellus is Blackwater, right? So,
gotcha.
And what I did notice is during the riots of 2020, what they were doing is they were flexing a lot of their federal law enforcement to different places and backfilling them with contractors. So you have to have your federal law enforcement guys go to like Portland and all those places that were on fire, and then those courthouses and everything else were being protected by private military contractors. It really is just a way to flex people into positions that they need to be.
So what's the so I think most people kind of generally understand what the legality is of deploying the military, right? And the president can deploy military for up to a certain amount of time under emergency powers, right, and move them around. But if there's a declaration of war that is to be declared, then that has to go through Congress. The president has to reach out to Congress. They actually have to declare war, and then it comes back, and then at that point he's the commander in chief, right? What is the legality of the United States government working with private military contractors and deploying them to other countries in order to act on behalf of United States foreign policy?
Oh, see, this is now you're getting into the minutia of this stuff. The short answer is nobody will ever define that. Because if you define that, you are going to have to actually figure out a way to like, I don't govern it. And nobody wants to govern it right now. So, dude, like you're saying, as military, you got your chain of command, you got the Uniform Code of Military Justice. If I work for the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, I work for the government, I got a chain of command. I know what laws are governing me. As a contractor that works for Blackwater, right? You got CIA, and then you got Blackwater, and then you got Morgan down here. As having those two arms lengths distance, it makes it really hard to define who is legally liable for you and your actions in a combat zone. I'll give you an example. When we got to Moyock, North Carolina with Blackwater, they gave us diplomatic passports. They said, "Don't worry, you guys are all diplomats now." And of course, us Blackwater guys were like, "Fuck it, I can't get through customs fast enough," so we're flashing our diplomatic passport, getting through customs as fast as we can. So they took them away. But dude, that's what they told us. Is like you're a diplomat. And then after a while, you can't be shocked.
You guys are the rookie. No, I'm not shocked at all. I'm laughing from. I'm just trying to, you guys were the rookie cops that just like lights and sirens so he can go get lunch and get back to the station on time.
Yeah, exactly, dude. We're like, don't go through my stuff. I got a bunch of Ambien in there that I got from Jordan.
Right.
So the whole thought or the whole thing that they told us is with that diplomatic passport, you have diplomatic immunity. If something happens, we're going to get you off ground as fast as possible. And that actually happened. There was a Blackwater employee that got wasted. He went into the vice presidential compound in the green zone, ended up shooting one of the vice president's guards, killing him. They got him out of country. He never got prosecuted. And then you have the Nisser Square thing that happened. And this is where it gets crazy because the FBI has theoretical jurisdiction over them. But how are you going to actually do an investigation in a combat zone? How are you going to go and wall off everything with yellow tape and say, "Hey guys, this is an active crime zone. We're going to try to collect evidence"? You can't. And they couldn't. So what it turned into was this political witch hunt because Big Bad Blackwater did some shit that we didn't like. And Joe Biden led the charge on that, which is funny because I think like 2 years before that, his helicopter that he was in had to land in Afghanistan for inclement weather. Who were the first people on ground to go grab that guy? Blackwater dudes. Anyway, so that's the legal ambiguity of it is if the government decides that they're going to come after you, they have plenty of my tax dollars to just keep coming after you and keep coming after you and keep coming after you. And it doesn't matter if your due process doesn't matter at that point because it becomes like a political witch hunt.
You're talking about while you're in country.
Dude, when you're in country, if you're out of country, it doesn't matter, dude. Like they could literally sit there and say, if the statute of limitations is still good for Morgan and I read his book and he did some horrible shit and we can find a witness, like, could you go after them? And I think that's every Blackwater guy's concern, to be honest with you. But that's the gray area that you live in. And what it really stood out to me is Blackwater, after Hurricane Katrina, actually deployed troops under Department of Homeland Security. So they were going into Katrina, they were securing areas, but what laws govern them? Right? You don't work for DHS. You don't have the chain of command. You don't have a DHS person that's supervising you. Like how do you even do anything? And that's just how it is today, man. That part I don't think will ever change because it is a nice way for anybody to sit there and say, it was Morgan, he was a dick. It wasn't us.
Yeah, I think even the simplest or smoothest brains of people out there can see how that would constitute a governmental easy button, and then why nobody in the government would ever want to, like you said, legally now define the the laws that these guys have to work inside, because if you do that, I lose my easy button to just be able to move people and then go influence foreign policy, right, wherever I want, or even domestic policy, like you said, down in New Orleans after Katrina, right?
Well, so the Gaza contract right now, it's not actually a U.S. government contract, but we had 2 contractors that got hit a week ago.
Oh, wow.
Did you hear anything about it? Dude, that's the other beauty of it. If a U.S. soldier gets killed or maimed or hurt, it's in the news. If a contractor gets maimed or hurt or killed, like it might pop up in the news cycle, but you're not going to have like the wall-to-wall news coverage about it. The same thing happened with Jordan with the drones in northern Iraq. They had a bunch of contractors that kept getting hit. But dude, it would hit the news for 24 hours, and then nobody gave a shit.
Wow. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do it, dude? If I was a politician, I'd be doing the same thing, man. I'd be like, send Morgan. He's a dipshit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's the easy button, right? And so it's like you get to go and you do a thing. Nobody's going to look into it. Nobody's going to know. And then if you fuck up, nobody knows. Nobody cares. You know what I'm saying? Do you guys even have like any type of like death or injury package that goes with those contracts for the company to take care of you and your family?
Yeah, it's this thing where if you die, they'll send you back home. So that's cool.
Return to sender. This one's permanently defective.
Yeah, dude, they slap a little bit of postage on the coffin, and they're like, "Send that one to Cottonwood, Arizona, man."
Man, I'm
so
only
there
laughing
is something
with dark humor, obviously.
Yeah, there is something called the Defense Base Act. It started in World War II for the Merchant Marines. These guys were getting chewed up, but they were considered to be civilians. So they started the Defense Base Act. So if you're a civilian working for the government in a war zone, you do have essentially a workers' comp policy. So if you die, they have to pay out X amount of dollars. I think when I was going, it was like $75,000 is what they said. But you definitely don't have like your SGLI, your military life insurance. You don't have your BAA. You don't have your death benefits. You don't have any of that shit, man. But I mean, you're making enough money to where, I mean, it's a bummer for the guys that get there on like day 2, they get smoked. But the guys that have been there for like 9 or 10 months, like you should have a couple bucks in your savings account to at least bury yourself.
Yeah, and then I'm sure there's absolutely nothing set aside for guys that might be lifelong injured after that. I'm sure they probably don't have much in the way of taking care of you as far as like medical bills or anything like that, right? PT.
The Defense Base Act will theoretically cover that because it's like workers' comp, right? If you're at, if you're working at Walmart as a cashier and you cut your finger off, like they're gonna have to pay for your medical stuff. Okay. But yeah, it's not like it's not like there's no VA. I can't be right. No, dude. No, don't get me wrong. There is a nonprofit that Blackwater created, and it's on Facebook, so you can go on there and say, "Hey guys, I'm having a really shitty day," and everybody on Facebook would be like, "Get better, bro." So that's helpful.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The universal, just like throw up the peace sign, pour one out for the homie, and then go on with your day. Man, yeah. I hope he gets better. Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, you kind of like already alluded to it with like kind of helping out with ISR stuff, flying drones. Can you take us over to what's going on in Gaza and just kind of paint a picture of what the PMC mission looks like on the ground and what those guys are doing over there? Yeah,
so dude, this is a huge step, and I don't think people are realizing how big a step this is, because with Blackwater, with Triple Canopy, with Constellus, they're working under U.S. government contracts. So it's a fine line between being a mercenary and not being a mercenary, right? Second oldest profession, right behind whittling, yeah. So with my contract, it was under the Department of State. This contract is actually under something called the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, which is funded by Israel, Egypt, and UAE. So these guys
perfectly innocuous.
Yeah, exactly. But now what you're seeing is U.S.-based private military contractors are working for a foreign entity. So you don't have Uncle Sam that can come and bail you out. You don't have your diplomatic passport that you can abuse when you come through customs. You don't have any of that stuff. And what people do is they always try to justify it. Look, dude, I was a mercenary, just straight up. Like I was there for the cash. Mm-hmm. These guys don't even have the ability to wrap themselves in the flag and say, I was a patriot, I was working for the State Department. Like, whatever helps you sleep at night. These guys are like, I'm taking food from Israel, I'm dropping it off in Gaza. We open up these gates. Dude, they look like horse stalls. They open up these gates, and it's a fucking mosh pit for all these dudes to like jump in and grab as much food as they possibly can. So the reason why it exists is because the UN sucks a dick. The UN sucks, dude. And they've been trying to do this for decades, and the food never gets down to the people. So at least somebody's looking outside of the box and saying, can we get the food directly to the people on the ground that need it? And then they're saying, how do we get that done? Let's use private military contractors. But at the same time, dude, even that $75,000 Defense Base Act, none of that stuff applies to you. Because you are meeting the very definition of a mercenary. You are in an active combat zone, and you are there for profit. Like, you can't even be like, yeah, but, I mean, this is what people, I'm sure, they way to justify. I'm helping people eat. Yeah, it doesn't fucking matter, dude. You're making $1,500 a day, and you're making your cash in a combat zone. You're a mercenary. So, dude, the Gaza thing's absolutely crazy. You guys can, like, type it into Google. There's been a number of contractors that have left it that are like, dude, these guys are, like, pepper spraying people right in the face. There's a thing, I think I just posted about it, but they were like, somebody was grabbing noodles, and the guy went up and emptied an entire can of pepper spray in this, like, Palestinian guy's face. And all I could think of was, well, now some spicy ramen, dude. Yeah. Like, what's wrong with that? It's delicious. But, dude, this is what happens with private military contractors is when you don't have those rules of engagement, you don't have those delineated lines of what you can and you cannot do, you get very liberal with your rules of engagement and your use of force. So, I mean, there's a lot of apologists that are like, well, these guys are doing it, it's a hard job and all this other stuff, but there's still nothing governing them. Israel's not going to come to your defense either, because Israel doesn't want to be the ones on TV that are going into these aid stations and, like, you know, doing crowd control. So right. Israel is really trying to, like, play the PR game right now and saying, hey, we're feeding these guys because, you know, we're also helping to starve them. But we're gonna hide behind these big burly U.S. contractors with their beards and stuff.
Can you kind of unpack that a little bit? I think obviously there's the very, very pro Israel camp on one side, they can't do any wrong, and then there's the other side of the camp, which is Israel is absolutely, you know, killing Palestinians on the ground, and it's a genocide. Can you maybe shed some light on, like, what the actual ground truth is over there, just so that people kind of understand what the situation is objectively?
Yeah, so both sides are dicks. Is really what it comes down to. Like we can sit there and you can take a side if you want. Look, after October 7th, I'm all about Israel going into Gaza, knocking out Hamas. I'm with it. But at the same time, there are still people that are starving, and you don't want to be the people that are like, oh, hey, too bad, we're coming in to kill Hamas. So that's why Israel is trying to do the PR thing with all the food. The Palestinians sure as heck aren't helping themselves out, man. Like, they voted Hamas in. They're protecting Hamas. An
overwhelming margin. Yeah.
Dude, like better than Saddam Hussein, who got like 99% of the vote back in like 2000. Before he got kicked out. Anyway, so what's happening is that you have this big civilian population that's stuck in the middle of between these two assholes, and they're just trying to survive, man. So a lot of the contractors that I've talked to over there, they're like, dude, it sucks. Like, it is horrible. These people are hungry. Like, they're coming here to get food. And then at the same time, it's like, but then as soon as they get the food, Hamas goes and takes it from them, beats the shit out of them. Yep. And then they hoard the food so that they can lord it over their population to continue to have them act in the way that they want. So, dude, it really is. It's not that I don't want to take a side. It's like both sides suck in this, man. And Israel, for its part, man, like, yes, you get to protect yourself, but at some point, like, I don't know where that line is. Look, when the line gets to the point that Eric Prince says, I will give you the tools to flood all the tunnels in Gaza and drown everybody that's in them, you crossed the line. You just did. Like, so, it's a difficult situation. Those guys are absolutely doing the best that they possibly can. I don't think they're over there with malice by any stretch of the imagination. But, dude, you've deployed. After 2 or 3 months, you're like, dude, especially as a Blackwater guy, I'm here for the fucking money, man. I don't give a shit. Like, and there's videos of, like, contractors up on top of Hesco barriers that are like, kicking rocks at people and stuff because, like, dude, the crowd is everywhere, and they're like, "Oh, get the fuck away from me." But they're getting a lot more bad press than I think they deserve, because essentially what you're doing is you're taking money away from the UN, which sucks at its job, and all the liberal newspapers are sitting there going through and saying, "Oh, this is so terrible. This is the worst way to do it." But at the end of the day, I don't care how I get my pizza, if it's DoorDash or if it's the Pizza Hut guy. Like, I just want my fucking pizza. I'm hungry. So I applaud them for figuring out a way to get food to the very bottom of the rung. But man, dude, that's just a bad situation. I wouldn't. People were like, "Morgan, come jump on this with me," and I was like, "Eat a dick."
Not this time, homie.
There's no way.
No, I've experienced something very, very similar to what you're describing, right? And so I was in Syria in 2018 and then again from 2019 into 2020. And back then I was working for civil affairs. This is before I was special forces. And so we were doing a lot of that population resource control kind of thing, bringing in a lot of humanitarian aid for all the refugees that were getting displaced by ISIS, so on and so forth. And of course you got to choose like local VIPs or key leaders, whatever jargon you want to use for that. And so it's like they were the node that we were pushing out this, our humanitarian aid to, and then it was supposed to be filtering down to the people in the different communities that we were working in, right? And I specifically remember one day we had one of the local sheikhs drive onto the military post that I was at, and we filled up the entire back of a bongo truck that he brought in there. And I mean, just cases and cases and cases of rice, tea, rations, all kinds of stuff that we put in there for him. And then, he took his stuff and happily drove back into the village. And I remember we went out just a few days after that. We were driving through a small community that our little fob was on the side of, and looking in the shops up and down the rows. This was supposed to be humanitarian aid that was supposed to be distributed to the people. And it was all the rice and all the tea and everything that we had just given them 4 days ago was stacked up in the shops, lining the sides of the street. And like, bet you can't guess who owned those shops or who was family members with the guy, that owned those shops. And so, yeah, like we saw it there too. And then what are you supposed to do? Roll up into the shop and like reacquire all this stuff and be like, okay, we're going to give it to the people. Well, no, because then you piss off your key leaders. You know what I mean? So it's like nepotism is the name of the game. Like anybody that's ever been over to the sandbox, like you guys have all seen it. Everybody's seen it, but it's hard to get the everyday civilian to kind of understand, what those situations, like what it actually looks like on the ground. I think, and you can tell me if you think this is fair or not, but if you go back and you watch Black Hawk Down, right? And like the first 10 minutes of that film where the UN truck drives in to the outskirts of Mogadishu, and then all of those Somalians just jump the truck and start ripping the bags of rice open, and rice is going everywhere, and people are just like diving on it like Chuck E. Cheese tokens, trying to get whatever little they can before one hombre rolls up with an AK and goes, "Hey, this all belongs to Mohammed Farah Aidid now." You know what I mean? If you want some of this rice, you got to come, work for him. Like they confiscate it all, and then there you go. Like none of the local population gets any of the rations, right, that the UN drove in. And I think that's probably, for anybody that's never been in a situation like this or understand how politics works over in the Middle East, like that's a really good reference point for what these guys are dealing with. Would you kind of agree with that?
Oh, dude, 100%. Because there was a video, I think they finally let a UN truck into Gaza, and they dropped off a bunch of food, and like as soon as they left, there was a guy from a Hamas soldier that was going in there and just like smashing people with his buttstock to grab the food. Because if you control the resources, you can control the population. Like Saddam Hussein did this in Iraq perfectly. He controlled all the oil fields, he controlled the money, he controlled the population. So it's sad, and it's still human nature, and trying to figure out a solution when both sides are being so obstinate about what they want. Like it's like the war on terror. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Oh, I hate Israel. Oh, I hate Palestine. Like, dude, that's all they can think of. And then the people that end up suffering are the people that are like, dude, I just want some noodles without some fucking spice in my eyes, bro.
You mentioned a couple of times that the Blackwater dudes are helping out and with drone technology. Can you kind of suss that out a little bit more?
Dude,
or as much as you can?
This is great, dude. So, okay, so same concept, right? We've been giving billions of dollars to Haiti through all these NGOs, through all these funds. The Clintons, had their daughter married using all that money. Like we've been giving Haiti billions of dollars for decades, and they are still pretty much a war-torn gang. It's almost like Mexico, like the gangs run the place. So the government of Haiti was like, dude, this isn't working. What can we do? And they called up Eric Prince, and Eric Prince is like, bro, I got an idea. Let's go to Walmart and get some drones and put explosives on them and go blow the shit out of these gang members. That's what they're doing, dude. They're literally taking commercial grade drones. They are flying them up into the air. They are spotting gang members, and they are flying them down and blowing them up. The same way that you see stuff in the Ukraine and in Russia. Now, here's the problem. Because I worked in SIGINT in the Army.
Hey, me too. That's where I started.
Yeah. So you're a dork, like me.
Super dork, dude.
We're nerds. So a lot of that stuff is done through SIGINT, and I guarantee that the Haitian government is not sitting there and doing any kind of vetting when it comes to identifying who these people actually are on the ground. So this is also a big step, right? You got a private military contractor working for a foreign government, which is Haiti, which is then going and helping blow up their civilians, their citizens. Now, dude, they're probably gang members. Let's be honest here. They're probably gang members. They probably need to be blown up. But is there any kind of rules or laws or anything that define what you can and you cannot do? And this is where the private military contractors are really expanding that gray area. It's dude, I mean, it's fascinating, but at the same time, if you worked in SIGINT, you know how hard it is to get a target package through?
Oh, yeah.
It's not that hard in Haiti. I'll tell you that, dude. They're like,
it's
dude,
pretty short kill chain, huh?
Yeah, they were like, hey, man, I just strapped like 4 pounds of C4 on this thing, and they're like, That guy looks like he's got a bag of weed on him. Let's get him. The other place they're doing this right now is in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They actually have private military contractors that are doing their drone operations over there. And here's another expansion is in DRC. Remember the U.S. just signed like a minerals deal with them? It was in the news. And they called Eric Prince and said, how are we gonna like protect these minerals and these mineral rights? How are we gonna do it? And Eric Prince is like, I got an idea, dude. We're gonna bring in PMCs, which is funny because he's not bringing in a whole lot of American PMCs. A lot of them are from Colombia, and you're seeing the Colombians do this in Ukraine, where they go and they join the Ukrainian Foreign Legion, and then they fight for Ukraine. And then on the other side, you got like the North Koreans. So really, you got proxies that are just fighting, because why the fuck not? And then, so with Eric Prince and the DRC, like they're recruiting these former Colombian guys, former military guys, and they're going to be protecting these mineral rights. I guarantee the same thing is going to happen in Ukraine. Any place where we go and we sign a contract for mineral rights is likely going to have private military contractors that are protecting it. And here's my... Like, I know I'm a hypocrite because I totally did it and I loved it and I fucking made my money. But I feel like if you don't have the balls to put boots on the ground in camouflage, you might want to rethink whether or not you should put a private military contractor there. Because they're still a U.S. military, they're still a U.S. citizen. If something happens to them and they get like their head chopped off, what are you going to do? You can't just like let it go. So when people say, how's World War III going to start? It's private military contractors in the Ukraine or something along those lines are going to get captured by the Russians, or in DRC or any of these other places in Gaza, and they're gonna put the hood on them and get their rusty knife and chop their head off, and then the U.S. is going to have to do something. And that's my concern, right? Like Vietnam. Oh, don't worry, we're just sending over trainers. Yeah, just trainers.
So what? You talked about proxy wars a little bit ago. What other countries are U.S. PMCs coming in contact with, if any?
So your super duper secret squirrel guys, it's called a GRS contract. It's what like Sean Ryan did. Those guys are in Syria. They're in Libya. How How do I know this? Because one of the dudes actually has like a GPS watch, and he uploads his runs on Strava. Like, oh, just got done running around a Libyan airfield, man. Feeling pretty good. Like, dude, like, I'm just saying, if you're making a conscious decision to be a private military contractor, you might not have made the best life decisions. Like, hey, I'm going to upload this to Strava. So, dude, they are literally everywhere. Everywhere where you have an agency, you have private military contractors right now. That's why you have stuff like 13 Hours that happened. Like, they are guaranteed everywhere.
I want to put a pin in that 13 hours and circle back around to it. But no, Brandon and I were talking on the live stream just last night, actually, and I brought up the same thing about Strava, and I just made the offhand comment. I was like, if you want to know where Americans are in the world, whether they're military or secret dudes or like whatever, I was like, go and look on Strava and then look at the mapped runs and then zoom out and then just go to any other place in the world. And if you see a bunch of loops on Strava, those are American dudes that are running their secret compounds, like the loops around their compounds around the world. Like, that's what it is, because for whatever reason, getting people to practice good OPSEC in the age of the internet and in the age of the smartphone is like pulling teeth. I don't understand why guys would, on one side, join an organization like Blackwater and say like, hey, like, this is what I want to do as a career. I'm going to be a professional warrior for hire, right? Mercenary. But then on the other side, it's like, okay, but you're not even practicing like the most basic of operational security for your life at this point. Like, this stuff directly affects you, and nobody's coming to get you when things go tits up. And I just find that to be like really duplicitous, but also ironically funny that dudes will do that. It's just like, it's the same mentality of when, did you see the alert that went out earlier this week that apparently we've got foreign terrorists that are specifically targeting former special operators in
Florida.
The alert was specifically for Florida, right? And I think one of the top comments that I saw on a post about it was just like, "My door's unlocked. I dare him to try." And I'm like, bro, it's just like, come on, man. Like, I already know you're not a serious person. Like, just
think how good this would be, right? Somebody breaks into a special forces guy, former special forces in Florida, which has the castle doctrine. So as soon as they come in, you could shoot them. Now, dude. I sleep naked. So what's going to happen is this guy comes in, dude, grab the tomahawk, and I'm like, chop this guy up. He's laying there dead on the ground. I'm butt naked with blood all over me. The cops show up. Do perfect Florida man story, right? And they're like, we're going to interview this guy in just a minute. Hey, can you go put some pants on? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. He goes and he puts on his like UDT, like shorty shorts,
right,
dude. Still bare chested, with a shaved chest, but still a little bit of hair. And he's like, yeah, the guy came in, grabbed my tomahawk because I wanted to get a kill with it. Like, dude, it's perfect. It's perfect. No, the funny thing, like, about Blackwater, when I came out with my book, these guys are like, whatever happened to being a silent professional? And I was like, bro, you got a tattoo on your arm of the bear paw.
Right.
You drive around, like you have a leather jacket that's got the bear paw on it that says Blackwater. Like, come on. So it's a little different with some of the contracts, right? Like, it wasn't hard to figure out who we were working for under the State Department. It got kind of secret squirrely for some of those other contracts, but at the end of the day, dude, people just like to brag is what it comes down to. And whether that's using something as dumb as Strava and being like, oh, I got in my mouth. Dude, I remember I looked at this guy's Strava and I was like, that guy runs slow as shit. That's the only thing I can think of.
Right.
But for him, he was like, just got done with the firefight in Libya, had to go run off some steam. Like, dude, come on. So people,
what are you talking? I don't know what you're talking about, man. Like, I rock that gray man uniform. You can't pick me out of a crowd in my trucker cap and my flannel overshirt, my cool pants, and my Solomon shoes, dude. I'm perfectly gray manned out.
Dude, I mean, that's why I got the NASCAR hat on. You guys
right.
Who's that guy that you were talking to on the podcast?
Yeah. carrying around my back my Eberly stock backpack. You'll never,
Yeah.
you never pick me out of a crowd, dude. I don't stand out at all.
Molly backpack with the Molly on the back.
Yeah, exactly, dude. But anyway, yeah, what did I say? Put a pin in it. Oh, 13 hours. So I'm pretty sure everybody that's going to listen to this has like a good understanding of the 13 hours incident, but just kind of like one shot across the bow. You had, they were GRS dudes, right?
Yeah.
These are the guys that were running security for CIA sites. It was in Libya. Obviously, it was one of the anniversaries of 9/11. They had credible intelligence that said that there was going to be some kind of attack. They didn't seem to really get themselves ready for it, but local forces, local terrorists, did attack. They attacked both the Ambo site, where I believe his name was Christopher Stevens. Check my knowledge on that, where he ended up killing the U.S. ambassador to Libya at the time, and then moved on. And because this is why I was making jokes about the gray man, they never knew where the CIA guys were. Just a bunch of white dudes driving in and out of that single compound a mile away. And they ended up
in a Land Cruiser.
In a Land Cruiser,
Yeah.
right? So they ended up attacking those guys too, and so those guys had to basically stand off the horde by themselves, and then were eventually able to exfil the next day and get out of the country. But do you guys have, my question and reason I'm bringing up that incident, do you guys have in Blackwater like any type of crisis response force to that, so you guys can back yourselves up when you're overseas?
No.
Anything like that? No.
No, dude. Okay, so this is the biggest difference. This is what you get paid for, man. Is that you have? I had no support. We had a couple of helicopters that would get up in the air, but how much is two little birds with two gunners in the back going to actually help you out?
Sure.
We usually use them for like route reconnaissance. Send them in front of us in the route, tell us what the traffic looked like. We could divert stuff. They were used medevac. They medevac people into Joff. But dude, once I left Baghdad, like we didn't even have radio comms. Like there was no way for us to sit there and say, "Hey, big army, something just happened. Come help us out." Mm-hmm. We would have had to try to figure out how to call back to our talk so that they could go over to the military talk, and then the military talk be like, "Okay, spin somebody up." That wasn't prepared for it. Mm-hmm. This happened actually. There was a convoy going to Ramadi. We had a Blackwater convoy get hit. One of the guys ended up dying. They had no comms. They tried to pull out the sat phone. The sat phone wasn't actually getting any connectivity. Ended up finally blowing the vehicle in place, getting to the next military checkpoint, and then getting into Ramadi. And the guy had already passed on since then. So, dude, there is no support. And that's part of the problem. That's what you get paid for at the end of the day. I don't think that it's necessarily a problem, especially like the 13-hour stuff. You don't want them to know, like, they were theoretically protecting the diplomat, but at the end of the day, they were assisting the CIA. And a lot of that stuff gets really kind of meshed together when you get overseas. So if you're on a specific contract, they're not going to sit there and say, "Oh yeah, you guys are under the CIA." They're going to put you under diplomatic cover to be able to say, "Yes, we're collecting intelligence over here, but we want you guys to pretend like you're over here." So, dude, it's not shocking that they didn't have anybody spun up and ready to rock and roll. And then when they did, the diplomatic concern of the Obama administration thwarted that whole thing because they were so worried about what it would look like on a national stage. So that's the other thing you got to look at. Like as a military member, no man left behind, dude. They're going to come in, they're going to find you. You saw that on Black Hawk Down. As a contractor, they're not.
Mm-hmm. This is just a question for, I guess, just because I'm curious about it. But I'm sure that the company provides you guys your weapons and your communications platforms and like all that jazz. What kind of hardware are these guys rocking with over there?
Oh, dude. So they have up to a 240 Bravo, and that's about it. So you got some saws, you got your M4. Usually it's a Glock. I don't know what they're running over there for their pistols, but like I got a Glock, I got an M4. No optics. You had to buy your own optics. Who knows if they give those anymore? Okay. But like Yeah, squad level weapons, man. 240 Bravos is the biggest thing they have. So, but I mean, the nice thing about Blackwater is we can go buy all that shit on the local market. So we had like RPKs and whatever else we wanted. I don't think they can do that in Gaza as much.
Is that a landmine?
Dude, there was a guy. I went down to El Hila and I was like I got in the Suburban and they had like 2 AT4 sitting in the back, and I was like, "What the fuck do you need an AT4?" Well, you never know when you're going to need it, man. So we traded the military for these, and then they went out to a range like 3 weeks later and shot them off just for shits and giggles.
So I know for a fact, yeah. You never know when you're going to need them. Hey, let's go shoot these things, dude. I've never shot one before.
Yeah, I mean, I shot one, but it was like the little powder round where it's like orange powder.
Oh my god. So we know that we're sending like a ton of weapons over to the Ukraine, right? And there are even a lot of military units that they started taking like Carl G's off the line for a lot of these military units so they could send them over to Ukraine, right? For the guys to use on the front line. Are those do you know, or can you speak to just being how, you know, corrupt the Ukraine is on a country? Are those weapons, do you know, are they going straight to the Ukrainian military, or are the PMCs able to get a hold of some of those weapons that we're sending over there for the fight as well? Do you know?
Oh, dude, I guarantee they can get a hold of them. Like,
Okay.
If you've been in, well, like in the military, it's a little different, right? Like, I couldn't just go and track down like an AK-47 that was silver plated. In Blackwater, I could. Like it was really that easy. Like, we could go out to the green zone and be like, "Hey, we need an AK," and the guy would be like, "All right, here, $20." Like, dude, it's really that simple. So in Ukraine, I'm sure they're able to get a hold of those weapons. I'm also sure that they are just going in there and just handing them out, dude. Like, they're fucking because they're dropping them off on the front line and being like, "Hey guys, grab whatever you need," and people are like, I need 7 of these ones."
Exactly. One for each day of the week, dude.
Yeah. So and then of course they're being smuggled, they're being moved, dude. Like I keep seeing these pictures of like people overseas, like, and they just have these decked out M4s, and the first thing I'm thinking is like, when did all that cool shit come out? And then the second thing I think is like, how'd they get that? And dude, I guarantee that somebody's making a lot of cheddar over in the Ukraine that is just moving those weapons. Like, the second that they get to the front line, they're like, "Oh yeah, we handed all those out to Jim." There's a South Park did this. So there was a Blackwater guy in Afghanistan. He walked into the armory and said, "Hey, like, I need 500 AK-47s," and they said, "Okay, sign here." And he signed Eric Cartman. And Blackwater did a thing where Eric Cartman goes in and is like, "I need 200 guns," and they're like, "All right, sign here." So, dude, like, there's no chain of custody. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's going to surprise. There's some people that's going to surprise, and then most of us that have a level head on our shoulders going to be like, "Yeah, that checks out. Like, that 100% checks out." But I think for some reason I would feel a little bit better knowing that like American weapons were filtering their way into the hands of like American paramilitary contractors than just getting turned over, you know, to the Ukrainian government with no chain of custody whatsoever. There's something down inside where it's like, well, if it at least made its way into the hands of an American, like I can feel a little bit better about that.
If 1 out of 500 makes it,
yeah, exactly. It was all worth it.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No, dude. So the contracts over there are really weird because they're not U.S. based contracts, but we have a lot of U.S. Former special operations guys that are over there as trainers. And I guarantee that those contracts are supplying the weapons. But I also guarantee that there's a lot of weapons that are going to the front that are just disappearing.
Yeah, for sure. And I still want to know, you know, what happened to the $80 billion worth of weapons that were left behind in Afghanistan, and where all that stuff went to.
They're in my closet. I don't know if you can see behind me. They're back.
They're right
here.
here.
I'm joking. If the ATF is watching this, I'm joking.
Yeah. No. All right. So that kind of like takes us through what's going on in Gaza, and then we talked a little bit about the Ukraine. On a more serious note, how are PMCs, or how have PMCs been affecting the situation, or were affecting the situation at the southern border? during kind of the height of just open borders America.
Yeah, dude. So this is the bummer part. I'll still make some jokes because I'm sick in the head. But so when I launched the book, I was on Facebook. Huge mistake, dude. You go on Facebook, it's all the old Blackwater guys that are like, "You're a dick. I can't believe you wrote that." So, but the other thing that they do is they just share information freely. And I started seeing these posts where it's like, "Hey, we need 5 people in El Paso," and it's this private military contractor. I Google the website, and dude, it's like just blank. It just is like Alpha Protection Services or something like that. And then I started looking, I started like kind of digging, and you have these contracts through like MVM, Mike Victor Mike, where they were being contracted to take migrant children from the border and move them into the United States. Now, here's where I got to stop because I got to give you the whole supply chain to even make it make sense, right?
Yep.
So I got a buddy at the Border Patrol. He said that during the Obama administration, they had the kids in cages thing, and they had a new policy that said if a kid comes in, there's a few things you can't do. You can't question them, you can't fingerprint them, you can't interrogate them, and there's one thing that you have to do. You have to get them out of Border Patrol custody in 72 hours. So a kid walks up. This is the happy path. The kid walks up, says, "I'm under 18." Doesn't matter if he's got a full beard and it's gray like me. They can't do anything with him. And then they hand them off to a private military contractor that works for MVM. MVM then goes to these airports, and they were chartering flights. And people would say, "What are you doing with all those kids?" And the MVM guy, you remember those like man purses that you put your like your DoD CAC card in?
Oh yeah.
They're like, "Hey, what are you doing with all these kids? Who do you work for?" And they'd be like, "Whoop," and they'd flip it over. So there's no accountability for what's happening here. Under a DHS contract, they take them to the airport, they fly them into a different state. Let's call it Kentucky. They drop them off at an HHS contracted site. This is where it gets really gray, right? Because like if you can't track it, you can't be pissed about it. So now I went from a DHS contract to an HHS contract. Robert Kennedy Jr. just talked about this in Congress. Under the Office of Refugee Resettlement, they contract with NGOs and nonprofits to house these children and then get them to their sponsors. So when they say they lost 365,000 kids over the course of those 4 years, it's because of this chain of custody. They get them to these NGOs, and then the NGOs say, "Hey, who's your sponsor?" And they say, "Oh, it's my abuela." And dude, they weren't verifying anything. They were just sending these kids off, man. And these kids, it has been shown that these kids got moved into sex trafficking, manual labor. They had the bust in California for the weed plant where they had 8 unaccompanied minors that were there. Mm-hmm. There was another thing that just came out yesterday about 10 people down in Alabama that got busted with a bunch of migrant minors, sex trafficking them. So what they did is they created this process and made it so obscure that you couldn't track where these kids were going. All right, now I'm going to tell you the not happy path. As a smuggler, as a cartel member, I can go down to South America, I can steal a kid. I can get them to the border and I can say, "Hey, when you get to wherever the hell it is that you're going, this is your sponsor." Give them a piece of paper, give them a name, give them a phone number. The private military contractor making millions and millions of dollars gets them to Kentucky. They go to the HHS contract and they say, "Hey, who's your sponsor?" And they say, "Oh, it's Tim." And they say, "All right, call Tim." Tim comes over, gets you. So what happens is now you're dropping that kid off the same cartel members that left them at the border for them to do whatever they want with. 3 things are happening. 1, they're extorting the family for more money. 2, sex trafficking. 3, they're getting them into the drug trade or like, hard labor, manual labor type stuff. So they still haven't found 85,000 of these kids. There's 85,000 children that they can't track down because of this. And it's fucking disgusting. So when the book came out, everybody was like, "Oh, you can make $700 a day. All you got to do is take like 7 kids on a fucking school bus and drive them from the border to Sacramento." And I was like, "You guys are fucking scumbags. Like, you guys are trafficking kids."
but like on the government's dime, too.
Yeah.
Because we know for a fact, looking back at the Biden administration, in an effort to make it seem like illegal border crossings were decreasing, just so that they could plaster those numbers right on CNN or whatever. Hey, illegal border crossings apprehensions are down. These were the programs that they were putting in place so that they could then say that no, we haven't, like apprehensions at the border are down because they're just turning these people and especially these children over to like private military contracts and then just being like turning a blind eye so that way they could pad their statistics and what they were showing the American people what was happening.
Well, dude,
is that fair to say? To describe
I mean,
it that way?
it's absolutely fair to say, but the problem with saying it that way is that that's what they did for the adults. The kids have always had this. It just exploded under Biden, right? Like, dude, and it happened under Trump during his first term. It's still happening today. I know it is because I went on MVM's website and they still have jobs that are posted for it. So yeah, you're not hearing about it, but there's no reason that they would have these jobs posted that literally say the ability to put a car seat in the back of a vehicle, like taking unaccompanied minors from point A to point B. Like dude, it's still happening. I'm almost guarantee that now they're going through the process and actually finding the sponsors and verifying the sponsors. I'll tell you some of the addresses that were coming through under Biden: strip clubs, storage units, and people were like, yeah, let's just send these 7 kids down to the strip club. I'm sure there are abuelas hanging out there throwing singles at somebody's, G-string. So, it was just, dude, the whole thing was scummy. And I'm gonna segue to a different thing. That's the exact same process that happened. So Constellas had a base in Haiti. You know all those Haitians that are eating the cats and dogs and shit.
Allegedly.
I mean, it's delicious. I've been to Korea.
Right?
It's not a big deal. So Constellas had a base in Haiti. The Haitians would go into the 1BPA app and they would try, whatever the fuck they do. They would go to the Constellas base. They would fly them into, any guesses? Nobody?
From Haiti?
Guantanamo Bay.
Oh.
Now, dude, you can go on usaspending.gov and you can look at all these contracts. They drop them into Gitmo. That's where they supposedly would screen them. And then they would send them into Ohio because it was a big hub. And they would give them straight to HHS under the ORR contracts. And they would release them out into the population. So it wasn't just happening at the border. It wasn't just happening in Haiti. Like, they were doing this in a lot of different countries where they were actively importing people into the United States through this process.
And is this still happening?
I guarantee it's not happening with like Haiti and some of those other places, right? Because they got rid of the 1BP, one Border Patrol app, whatever the hell it was. But if there are kids that are being dropped at the border, I guarantee that those ones are still being brought in, or else they would have taken down the job sites. So.
Right.
Maybe I'm crazy, maybe it hasn't happened, but when they talk about apprehensions, that's different than when a kid presents themselves at the border and says, by the way, my mom and dad are up here, I want to get in.
Is there any type of, the word is escaping me, any type of accountability within, the PMC community for, guys like you? You're obviously saying that this is a disgusting practice that, American private military contractors are being complicit in just for the money of it. Is there any tool or anything that exists inside of the PMC community where you guys are trying to like police each other up and be like, hey, come on, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to take money for that?
Well, first off, I'm a pariah in that community, so I don't have much of a say. But when I did start calling it out, people were like, well, if I don't do the job, somebody else will. Which is the same bullshit excuse as like of the people in Gaza that are like, well, I'm just trying to help feed the hungry. Like, dude, nobody goes to jail and says like, yeah, I totally murdered that guy. They give a reason why they did it. And I think that's what the PMC mentality is slowly turning into is, well, if I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. Or, hey, I need the money. I got 3 mortgages and I owe the IRS $700,000. there were, I mean, to their credit, there were some guys that were like, dude, that is some scummy ass shit. And they would just flat out shame people that were doing it. But you throw it out there. I mean, dude, there was a guy I was talking to that was making $700 a day to get on a school bus, a large school bus with migrant families and children, and drive from the border up to like Northern California or Oregon. And you sat on these buses for like 36 straight hours with these migrants, and then literally open up the bus door, hand off their paperwork to somebody that you've never met that's part of a nonprofit, and say, all right, kids, go have fun. Like, Alex Jones talked about it. The problem is, I've been talking about it for 2 years. It finally got picked up by the New York Post, and still nobody wants to touch it, dude. Like nobody wants to touch this thing, and I can't figure out why. Everybody should be sitting here saying, you know what, whose side I'm on? Like the kids. I'm on the fucking kid side. But, dude, it happened a lot under Biden. I think the new administration is sitting there saying, like, we don't really want to promote this. One, because it's still, like, in place today. And two, because we don't want everybody to know that we're still missing literally, like, 100,000 kids. But
Right.
I can't fathom who would come up with this policy and be like, yeah, that's working, bro. That's good.
Yeah, I know I saw a leading report post on X, I think earlier today, where the Trump administration is bragging that they've recovered 13,000 of the supposedly 85,000 missing children that they haven't been able to locate yet. And, you know, I quote tweeted it and put it back out there. I was like, cool, 72,000 more to go. You know what I mean? There's a job to do, and this is a huge red.
It's a black eye, dude.
Yeah, I was going to say a red stain on the soul of the United States. You know what I mean? And so, do you know? Is there any contract that exists right now where PMCs are helping ICE and CBP, excuse me, like search for and round these kids up and kind of undo the mess that was did?
I have heard that they are flexing a lot of resources towards this. To their credit, like they are taking the people that are normally behind desks and they're saying, go fucking find these kids. Go check in on these addresses, these phone numbers, all these other things. Let's go find these children. I haven't heard that PMCs are actively assisting them. I did just see that there's like a multi-billion-dollar contract on a base in Texas for a migrant processing facility that's going to have, that's essentially by a private military contractor. So it's become this fucking self-licking ice cream cone, right? Like,
oh yeah,
I'll pay you to help people come in, and now I'm going to help you you kick these people out by paying you more. Like, dude, that's why I don't think the industry is ever going to die, man. I think we opened up Pandora's box in 2003, 2004, and now it's just easier. And to your point, no accountability, dude. Like nobody from MVM has ever been like called up to Congress and been like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Mm-hmm. Because the politicians that created this policy they were fine with it, and now you have to unwind it.
Yeah. This is disgusting, and I hope by having this conversation that we can like elevate it. By the way, congratulations on your op-ed in the New York Post and getting this stuff up and out there. And I'm hoping by having conversations like this, we can elevate it and get the attention of people that should know what's going on, or at least get the information out there to the point where people start asking these hard questions, and it's going to force these fuckers to. Well, now I have to talk about it because you know what I mean. Like the people are talking about it, so that's one of the things that I hope that comes out of this. So let's move south of the border if we can. What kind of PMC operations are happening? Maybe in like Mexico or heading down into South America. Do you know anything about that?
Dude, that's kind of a black hole, man. To be honest with you, because they're definitely not U.S. sanctioned contracts that are happening down there, and there's a few people. There's a guy out there with a book called American Mercenary. He kind of did some of that stuff, or you have Jimmy Watson that was like the bodyguard for McAfee after he did. Like, dude, there's money to be made, and if there's money to be made, there are enough morally pliable people that will go down there to actually make that money. And dude, let's be honest, like the U.S. military trains people better than anybody else on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And you go through this process where you get all this training and you don't get to go to war, right? Like everybody that joins special operations after Afghanistan, they're not going in there and getting in the shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's going to pay you a shit ton of money, why wouldn't you go do it? I mean, not the kids thing. Fuck those people. But like, dude, I would go to Gaza tomorrow, man. If I never got my chance to go to Afghanistan or Syria or Iraq, I'd be like, dude, that's my adventure, and I get to make a shit ton of money. So I guarantee that there's some stuff down there. What was we talked about it last time. There was the special forces guys that got rolled up in Venezuela. Dude, there
a couple of 10th group guys, I think.
I mean, it only takes one wonky ass guy that's like, yeah, I think I'll pay these guys $8,000 a day. Why not? We'll go take over Venezuela. Like,
yeah. It cracks me up. I remember reading about that for the first time, and the fact that they were 10th group guys. For anybody that doesn't know, like 10th group, that's EUCOM, right? So that's Europe is kind of what they pay attention to. And so I was just imagining these dudes like getting rolled up in their infill method on the beaches of Venezuela, and looking up and being like, "Sprachen Sie Deutsch?"
yeah, they're like trying to speak French.
Yeah, parlez-vous français? No, nah, dog, you're in the wrong hemisphere. But no, you're absolutely right, and I like the phrase that you used, morally pliable people, because it is, man. It's a strong. I remember being young in the military and chasing that first deployment and just looking for every opportunity, because you go through all this training and, to use the sports metaphor, right? Like nobody wants to make it to the pros to just ride the pine, you know what I mean, and never get in the game. And so then you feel like all this wasted time and missed opportunity if you don't get to go there and do the thing and come back and say that, hey, I operated at that level, whatever that level is for you that you were trying to get to. And so I absolutely remember, and for a lot of these guys that get out, especially after like one contract or maybe two, and they just got to the place where they were leading a squad, by themselves and considered a subject matter expert, right? To the point where it's like, I'm leading young soldiers now. Yeah, it can be incredibly enticing, especially when you start throwing those dollar bills at them, like pay per day. You said you were making $550 back in the day in 2004, $550 a day. So I can only imagine that's,
It's like nine. I looked it up. It's like $940 something now.
Jeez.
Yeah, in today's dollars. Dude, I liken it to this. Like, let's say you go through plumbing school. You spend like 2.5 years learning how to be a plumber, and then you go home for Thanksgiving, and your mom fucking plugs the toilet with this monster Duke, right? And you're like, I've been training for this my whole fucking life, Mom. I got this. And she's like, don't worry, we'll call a plumber. And you're like, I don't want to do it necessarily. Like, I don't want to like dislodge this monster Duke from the toilet that I know came out of my mom. But at the same time, like, I'm trained for it. I'm ready. Let's go. And dude, it's the same thing, man. Like, dude, if you train that long, it's like, look, it might, you know it's gonna change you and it's gonna scar you. But at the end of the day, it's like, I still want it, right? I want to have that thing. So.
That was such an interesting analogy.
That's the best analogy I could come up with.
Dude, yeah, no, 100%. I think this is the point of the conversation where I'm going to ask you, as far as like private military contracting and contracts that we have going on around the world, which one should I be asking you about that I haven't yet?
I mean, dude, we've hit on most of them. I think. Yeah. A lot of people always ask me like private military contractor or military or law enforcement, and dude, I'll be honest with you, you gotta weigh what you want, right? If you want the stability, you want the retirement, you want the BAH, you want the medical benefits, like stay in the military, don't get out. If you want adventure and you want to make money for like 2 to 3 years, and then you use that as a springboard, go the PMC route. But here's what most people do, is they jump out of the military, they don't know what they're going to do, and then they fall into PMC work, and they don't set any goals. They are not like, I'm going to pay off my house, I'm going to pay off college, I'm going to pay off my IRS debt, whatever the hell it is, and they just keep getting sucked back into it. So, dude, there's guys on the Gaza contract that worked with me in Blackwater in 2005. 20 years later, these guys are still in the game. And one of them reached out to me because I posted some stuff and they got all butthurt. And he's like, you gotta take that stuff down, man. I need this job. I'm homeless back home. And I'm like, dude, you've been doing this for 20 years and you're fucking homeless? That's what happens when you don't set a goal if you go into the PMC.
I was like,
man.
that's almost impressive, actually.
I know.
If you on the scale of that's a lot of strippers and beer, dude.
Yeah. And, dude, all the PMCs were like, my ex-wife screwed me over and she didn't pay my, and I was like, no, dude, you're dumb. You're just like, dude, you're just dumb. Like, I was 23, I was a dumb redneck, and even I knew that you probably had to pay taxes. So you might want to consult H&R Block. But dude, people were like, no, it's tax-free. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that's how it works, guys. like people, dude, like I said, if you're going and you're working for these companies in these places, you probably didn't make the best life decisions before that. And this is not going to be one of those ones where you're like, yeah, that was the good one. Like, I'm going to go to Gaza and go hang out with those guys. Like, it's probably still not a good decision.
So seeing how all of this, you're talking about how lucrative private military contracting is. You're talking about how we covered kind of why the government enjoys having the easy button of PMC to hit versus deploying actual military. What do you kind of see the future trajectory of the PMC industry being?
Dude, you know, it's like anything else, right? Like it's going to be saturated. When I got in 2004, there was only one OIF 1 had happened, right? OIF 1 and 1.5 had finished up. So there weren't a whole lot of people to be able to draw from. You can't just grab every Navy SEAL that was on active duty in Afghanistan, right? They're still on active duty. So that's why the pay was so high. And then as the time went on, you started getting saturation, right? All these guys that were coming out of the military, they all had deployments. They came in, and once you get saturation, man, the prices start dropping. Mm-hmm. So what you're seeing right now is kind of like that same expansion trajectory that you see with like software. It's growing really fast right now. People are getting paid out the ass. And by the time you start looking at it, and like, you know, if you're getting out of the military in the next couple of years, those guys in Gaza are probably only going to be making like $400 or $500 a day. So dude, you got to ride the highs when you can. And then you got to try to ride out the lows if that's going to be your career. But at the end of the day, if that's your career, you probably need your fucking head examined, dude. Like, grow the fuck up. I'm not trying to be a dick. Like, I know I sound like an asshole, but like, you can't go chase war into your 60s, dude. Like, that's insane. Yeah.
Are companies like Blackwater, or what did you call it now? Constellus?
Constellus, yeah.
Constellus, are they doing anything to leverage like emerging technologies, AI, so on and so forth? Or is kind of the business model still just to throw bodies at a problem because human beings are expendable?
Yeah, they are to a certain extent, but at the same time, like, they're not hiring guys to be static, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you have, dude, if you were ever in Iraq, it was like every third person you met was Ugandan because that's who fucking protected the base, right? So you can get cheap enough labor to where you don't need to leverage all this technology. What they are doing right now, though, is they're tapping into venture capital. So it used to be like Eric Prince, hey, he's got a place where you can go and you can shoot. We can train people there. Now it is venture capital that is flooding the market. So UG Solutions was venture capital based. They had like 3 employees. They got this contract, then they exploded, right? So people have figured out you can make a fuck ton of money off of these contracts. Fogbow is another one, Fogbow. They're doing aid in South Sudan right now. But they're all being backed by, you know, billionaires that have money that are like, I think I can make more money over there. Like, dude, the same way that venture capital backs Google and like that's weird to me, right? Because I can understand with software, like, you're backing a bet. You're backing that people are going to use this and they're going to want to use this. But with like literal human bodies and guns, like, they're making the same bet. It's insane.
Right. Are they hiring a lot of foreign guys?
Yeah, yeah. Because dude, they're just a lot cheaper, man.
Sure. Like any industry.
Yeah. So like Blackwater 05. So the regional embassy office was protected by Blackwater. They had the contract, and then the diplomatic security, which was me, was Blackwater. So everybody that was protecting the regional embassy office were all Colombians, and anybody that protected the actual diplomats were Americans. So, dude, they've been using. I mean, the Uganda. I remember the Ugandan lady that was like at the front gate to be able to like search females as they came through. Walked out of her chew one morning with like a red bucket and threw her piss like right next to it. I was like, oh, like why the fuck are we hiring these people, man? Like this is disgusting. I was like, dude, I thought there was a bunch of cats that were pissing all over my trailer before, but it's this fucking Ugandan lady. So I don't even know where I was going with that, but yeah, dude, anywhere where you can pull people out of poverty that have like some military experience, dude, they're gonna take these jobs, and I guarantee those Ugandans were making like $25 a day, bro.
Mm-hmm. Just story for story. I remember working with the Kurdish SDF, and I had to go check out this guard shack outside of a hydroelectric dam that we were looking at in this certain area, and I remember like you could smell this human shit like wafting out of this building out by the road gate to get into this compound where the dam was. You could just smell it wafting out of this building. It was just in there baking. And I remember like I got up next to it and I'm like, I am not walking in there, because from the front door you could just see, it was a little 5x5 hut outside of the gate arm, and it's just human shit all over the floor, all over the tile floor in there. And I'm like, I remember distinctly thinking like, if I had to stand in this guard shack all day and guard this ECP, I'm not going to shit inside the building simply because I have to stand in this building all day. You know what I mean? And it was so wild to me. But these guys, man, they would just stand in the building. And I don't know if it was because it's like I'm not allowed to leave, or if it was just supreme laziness or what it was. But they would just drop trout, shit in the guard shack, and then pull their pants up and go on about their day guarding the ECP. And I'm like, just wild.
So, dude, I gotta call bullshit on your story, because I think you're right. I think you're 100% right. If you were at that ECP, you would not shit right in the middle of it. But the guy that took over for the shift after you, as soon as he shits in it, you're gonna go to your next. You're gonna show up for your next shift, and you're gonna be like, "Well, fuck it, dude. I'm just gonna shit in it too, man. Like, fuck that guy."
Right.
It's breaking the seal, dude. One dude breaks the seal, and you're gonna be the guy that's also taking a dump right there.
That's true.
And no toilet paper.
Don't ever shake their hands. Don't shake their hands in the Middle East. That's all I'm saying. That reminds me of your story of don't be the first guy to run to the bunker, right?
Yeah,
that's what you say.
Yep. Don't be the guy who's like, that guy's a pussy.
Right.
And then
let's go. Yeah. Dude, 100%, man. 100%. So I'd like to give you a little bit of a chance to talk about your book, obviously. How are sales going with that, man?
It's going all right. Dude,
awesome.
One day it's going to take off, and it's just going to be so great, because I say it's going to sell like you go to Waffle House and it's going to sell like fist fights there, dude. Like it's just going to be fucking punches all over the place. So that's my hope is Waffle House fist fights.
Sure.
No, dude, like it gets good reviews. If you were ever a junior enlisted guy, like love it or hate it, like this is just how people act in war.
Yep.
I was able to kind of nail that down. The audiobook, somebody's like, he mispronounced these words. Somebody wrote that the other day, and I was like, dude, you wouldn't know how to pronounce them either if you hadn't gone there,
Right.
Like, dude, I couldn't have told you where Iraq was on a map before we invaded. Let's be honest. So,
dude, real talk, man. I actually downloaded the audiobook version, and I was listening to it before the first time that I met you, and we had you on the podcast. And I remember sitting up in bed one night, and I got it playing over here, and I was doing something, and I don't remember what story you were telling, but all of a sudden I remember the audiobook cut out. And I looked over and I was like, oh, what was that? And it was my wife, and she had her finger on the phone. And she looked up at me and she goes, what the fuck are you listening to? I was like, it's
It was
Morgan
probably one of
Lerette.
the hooker, it was probably one of the hooker stories. Let's be honest here.
It was
those
something
are,
like that.
Those are the greatest. But my
No,
wife was
100%.
like, "Oh my god, how many hooker stories did you put in here?" And I was like, "A lot." Because there was a lot of them.
Well, on that, man, let's. I'm just gonna straight tee you up, man. So anybody that listens to this, whet their appetite a little bit for what they can find in the book. What's one of the funny hooker stories that you got in there for them?
Oh, dude. So, dude, like by far, well, I'll tell this one. There was like this SF guy, and he was dating this German lady, and like because he was stationed in Germany, he's like dating this German lady, and he's like, dude, and she was like into that weird like S&M type stuff. So she'd be like, okay, go grab a knife, and he's like,
Oh, jeez.
all right. So he's like, so then I'm kind of holding the knife up here while we're going at it, and she's like, no, down here, like put it to my throat, like, dude. And she was like totally into it, and he was like, this is awesome, this is the greatest thing ever. And then she's like, get your gun, and he's like, all I have is my service pistol. So he goes and he gets his gun, and she's like, okay, now put me down doggy style and fuck me from behind, but put the gun in the back of my head. And he's like, no, I can't do it. And she's like, oh yeah, you can. And he's like, okay, yeah, I can. So he's like, dude, I cleared this thing, dude. I checked for a bullet like 8 or 9 times, and I got it to the back of her head, and I'm just going at it, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck have I become? Like, how did I get to this place in my life? And he's like, and every 3 or 4 seconds, I'd pull back the top and be like, okay, there's still not a bullet in it. There's still not a bullet in it. He's like, dude, after that one, I just told her I was deploying, and I wasn't ever going to be able to call her again because it was the weirdest night of my life.
Dude. Yeah, that's an SF story, 100%.
Yeah.
That checks out. Thank God it wasn't a SIG P320, because that gun might have jumped out of his hand and loaded itself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I heard. What do they call it, dude? What, the M18?
Mm-hmm, yeah, the M18 is what they call it
was
for
like,
the military contract. But yeah, that airman, apparently it was still in his Safariland holster, and he detached the QLS and took the entire holster and everything off and set the weapon on his desk, and weapon discharged by itself, shot him in the chest and killed him.
Jesus.
So that day, the Air Force cut the M18 contract. They said pull them all off the line, to the point where I do believe that they actually told the Air Force Security Forces dudes, because he was a desk sergeant. So they told him, like, hey, just carry rifles for the time being until we can replace all the sidearms, but nobody's carrying the M18.
Dude, they're so fucked now, because if somebody's like, give up your pistol and carry this rifle around for the rest of, like, for the next 2 to 3 months, I'd never buy a SIG again, dude.
Oh, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the idea, anybody that's been following this story, not to get off too far into, like, 2A and gun tube community drama or whatever, but SIG is absolutely known for the last 2 years that this weapon system was not reliable, and they were actively working to cover up any instances where people were like, it was in my holster on my hip and it went off, and they were like, no, it must have been the holster pulled the trigger and discharged it, or it was user error. Like, they were just ignore, cover up, override, and drive on was basically the name of the game. And this last time, it ended up having to be like a military investigation on what happened to this airman, and then the Air Force came back and they were like, absolutely not. Like, witnesses all around the room. This weapon went off while retained inside of a Safariland holster. Like, yeah.
And
so
Sig was like, they were playing spin the bottle with it.
yeah,
That's what happened. Yeah.
Something like that, where they really shot themselves in the foot, pun very much intended, is several months ago they released a social media post, and it basically, like, the headline was like, it ends today, and they went down and they basically excoriated anybody that was saying that the M18 wasn't safe and all this stuff, and they were just like, this is all slander, and they quasi threatened like legal action on people that continued to put that stuff out online, and they just like took it to the mat. And then, so they got a lot of splaining to do in that organization, 100%. So it's been kind of interesting to watch it unfold, and super unfortunate that a service member had to lose his life in order for them to finally fess up to what's been actually going on. So, but either way, man, we can't end on that note. That's a dark note, dude.
All right, I'll give you another hooker story. You ready?
Let's do it. All right.
So my buddy, this guy was a former Navy SEAL, and he got out and he like worked on Wall Street and very like, dude, he lost more millions of dollars than I will ever make in my life. And like he just a very astute, intelligent guy. He also worked in the mailroom because he was like, fuck it, dude, I'm here to make $550 a day. I don't give a shit about going to get my adventure. So dude, I envy this guy because he knew why he was there. But he went to Amsterdam. And he comes back and he's telling us this story. He's like, dude, I went to Amsterdam, man. And I was like, oh, you went to the red light district? And he's like, no, dude, I went to the classy place where you walk in and there's like couches. And they sit me down on like a recliner and I got my feet lined up and they put like 5 or 6 girls in front of me. And you can pick 1, you can pick 5, it doesn't matter. And I was like, okay, like this is classy hooker story. And he's like, but there's this beautiful Vietnamese girl, dude. She's just fucking gorgeous. And I was like, dude, I gotta have her. So they walk me into this room. It's nice silk sheets, like red. It's fucking beautiful. Put the condom on. She like blows me for a while, and then she lays me down on the bed, and like she's over the top of me, and she's like squatting down. And for some reason, I gotta talk to her. And I don't know why, but like I gotta say something. And he's like, and she's squatting down, and like she's like, I'm like this close from being inside of her. And I was like, I gotta ask. And he goes, so where are you from in Vietnam? And he's like, she just leaned over and was like, the place you bomb.
Oh.
He said, dude, he went from like fully hard to like, he's like, dude, I just paid her the money and walked the fuck out.
He deserved that.
I know. He's like, dude, and the way he's describing it, he's like, dude, it's like, and he's like, dude, I don't know why. I gotta say something.
How's the weather?
Yeah.
Oh my word. Well, hey, we warned you guys. Viewer discretion was highly advised for this one. Morgan, it's always awesome to have you on. Thanks for sharing all that stuff with us, and definitely thanks for kind of giving us a peek inside of what's going on in Gaza, and obviously kind of blowing the lid off of what was happening down at the southern border. This is definitely something that we need to make a lot more people aware of, and I hope that we're able to do it through conversations like this. And of course, I'm sure we're going to have you on again. You become an awesome friend of the channel. But before we get out of here, I just want to let you tell everybody where they can find you and how they can get a hold of that book if they want to read more hooker stories.
Yeah, if you want to support me and you want to laugh your ass off, grab Guns, Girls, and Greed. It's on Amazon. You can get it on Audible or the audio, so you can grab it wherever. If you want to track me down, if you have any questions, just track me down on like Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. I'm on X, but dude, the X one are like, dude, those are like XX rated. No, not the X ones. I'm sorry, the TikTok ones. Dude, I show so much ass. But you
gotta feed the beast, dude. It's all about the algorithm.
Yeah, that's it. Like I gotta go shave my chest hair. It's a cleavage day, guys. So yeah, it's just at Blackwater Dude and the number 1 at Blackwater Dude 1. Track me down. Love to talk more. And if you guys have anybody that is interested, shoot them my way.
Yeah, 100% we will. Hey, guys, thanks for hanging out and listening this long. Of course, I Came with Fire podcast. Make sure that you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share the episode with somebody that you think would enjoy this type of degeneracy that we experienced tonight. Yeah, guys, please hook us up because we got a big, hairy, audacious goal of hitting 10,000 followers by the end of the year. And we're not going to get there without your help. And especially if you like conversations like this, we really are working on getting down, finding the truth in these stories and blowing the lid off of some of these cover-ups that have happened. So talk to you guys next week. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace out, guys.